Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. As the cost of living continues to increase, an Alberta Conservative MP blasted the Liberals in the House, saying Canadians can't afford to keep up. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is calling for a referendum to see if Albertans want to support a Commonwealth Games bid for 2030. And we chat with WHL superstar Connor Bedard, who's set to take on the Lethbridge Hurricanes tonight at the NMAX Centre.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Tomorrow, March 11th, will be 3 years since the World Health Organization declared the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic. More than 51,000 lives were lost in our country attributed to the virus. So many Canadians have been impacted over the past few years. Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, says we've come a long way since 2019, and fortunately, in recent months, there have been no distinct driven waves of COVID-19.
Such as the well-defined Alpha, Delta, and initial Omicron wave seen previously. Likewise, over the past 6 to 8 months, COVID-19 hospitalizations have been relatively stable despite the ongoing spread of Omicron subvariants. ICU admissions and deaths have also stabilized. Population immunity, estimated using regular antibody studies, is currently high and relatively stable. This level of immunity is also approaching a steady state due to the combined effect of our overall high vaccine uptake and infection-acquired immunity.
Canada's Public Safety Minister, Marco Mendicino, says the federal government is launching public consultations for establishing a foreign influence transparency agency. The registry will require those acting in Canada on behalf of a foreign government or state to disclose their ties.
As a government, we must keep our eyes wide open, from hacking and harassment to stealing sensitive information and infiltrating the economy. Foreign hostile actors have targeted Canada. While those threats are not new, they have evolved. And as they have evolved, so too have we stepped up our efforts to protect Canadians.
Federal Justice Minister David Lametti says changes are coming to Canada's bail system aimed at addressing challenges posed by repeat violent offenders and those facing firearms and other weapons-related charges. He says Ottawa will move quickly to reform the criminal code.
Bail is a constitutional right, but it is not absolute. Our laws are clear that bail can be denied where there is just cause, when it is necessary for the safety of the public or to maintain the public's confidence in the administration of justice. We all know that public confidence in our criminal justice system has been affected by recent events. I hope our work today will help to reverse that trend.
Premiers, federal Conservatives, and law enforcement leaders have been ramping up pressure on Ottawa to make bail more restrictive. Alberta Justice Minister Tyler Shandro met with his federal counterpart to discuss making bail more restrictive and to talk more about firearm regulations. Shandro says the new Alberta Firearms Act is being brought forward to give Alberta a new role when it comes to improving community safety.
We have to remember that both the federal government and the provincial government have a role to play in firearms regulation, and that the provinces have a role to play in the operation of and the implementation of the Federal Firearms Act. And that's what this is doing, that if there is going to be an increase in the storage, the transportation, and the movement of firearms throughout the province, that the province has a role to play in ensuring the safety of such a program as that, the confiscation program. And that's what this legislation is designed to do.
More and more Canadians are borrowing money just to help make ends meet. That's according to Lakeland, Alberta MP Shannon Stubbs. During question period today, she said many of us simply cannot keep up, especially with housing costs going through the roof.
While the Prime Minister spent millions of tax dollars to upgrade his official lakeside cottage, housing costs for everyday Canadians have doubled. Almost 40% now have to borrow just to make ends meet. More than half can't feed their family and save money, while 20% skip meals to afford the basics. Canadians on fixed incomes have to choose between food, fuel, and home heating, and 2/3 of Canadians have to put off retiring. Meanwhile, this Prime Minister spent more than all previous Prime Ministers combined before COVID. The reckless record cost of his government drives up the cost of living. Canadians have never had it so bad, but Liberal insiders, they've never had it so good. Liberal ministers give thousands of tax dollars to their close friends, their staff's family, or even to former Liberal MPs. Liberals broke ethics laws 6 times. The Prime Minister himself twice for lavish vacations and perks for their pals. Conservatives will end the corruption, make life more affordable, and turn hurt into hope.
Former Conservative MP Derek Sloan, who's now the leader of the Ontario Party, gave us his thoughts if we may be going to the polls this spring. Sloan says it doesn't appear as though the Liberal NDP coalition wants to see an election just yet.
I believe that Justin Trudeau's strategy is to hold on to power as long as he can. I don't think he wants an election right now. I don't think the NDP want an election right now. The polls would suggest that they would do worse during an election now than they would have potentially before. So having said that, though, if politics can change on a dime, and if more information comes out, the NDP might be forced to stop supporting the Liberal government. So there could be an election at any time, but I believe Trudeau's aim is to hold out as long as he can and run again during the next election.
Make sure you catch the full interview with former Tory MP Derek Sloan and BCN's Jeanette Rocher coming up in the second half of our program. Well, the snowfall warning continued from Environment Canada today for Lethbridge. We've had a lot of the white stuff. Jeanette Rocher is in now with a quick peek at the forecast. Jeanette, we saw more snow today, but hey, how's the weekend shaping up?
Well, in a nutshell, snowy on Friday night, some more flurries on Saturday, and sunshine on a Sunday. Now, we are still under that snowfall warning, as you mentioned. Some areas of the region saw 10 to 20 centimeters. In Lethbridge, we saw about 10 centimeters fall, another 2 to 4 centimeters of the white stuff overnight, and then into Saturday, 30% chance of flurries, along with some wind gusts up to 40 kilometers per hour. Should be lightening up, though, in the afternoon on Saturday. After that, though, we got some good news. We're going to be seeing some plus temperatures almost up to the teens next week. So I'll be back later in the show to give you all those details.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeanette. Chances are you've heard of Connor Bedard, a WHL star player with the Regina Pats who's projected to go #1 in the upcoming NHL draft in June. Bedard is being mentioned in the same breath as superstars like Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby. As BCN's Micah Quinn explains now, the talented and diminutive forward was in Lethbridge chatting with the media ahead of his big game tonight against the Lethbridge Hurricanes.
For Regina, 1-on-2, step by the defenseman to the net, the deke, and he scores! Oh my! Does it get any better than that?
Regina Pats forward Connor Bedard is being hailed as the latest generational talent that is soon to make his way to the NHL. Bedard has netted 60 goals, along with 64 assists, in only 49 games this season for the Pats. As talk continues to heat up for the upcoming NHL draft, hockey experts are saying Bedard is a lock for the #1 spot. Despite all this, Bedard has stayed humble.
No, I haven't thought about that. Like I said, I still feel like I need to prove myself, and there's no lock to go #1 or whatever. And for me, it's a big last few games, and then obviously hopefully a playoff run for us.
Regina Pats head coach John Paddock chatted about what it's been like to coach a superstar player like Bedard.
It's a unique situation to have a player of this level of ability at 17. I mean, we've had a couple of great junior players before in Brooks and Steele, and we used to play against one here in Cousins, and he's just taken it to an all different level.
The head coach of the Lethbridge Hurricanes, Brent Kissio, told us what it will take for the Canes to stop Bedard.
The key to stopping Bedard is you can't completely stop him. He's going to get his chances, he's going to get his looks. He's just that good of a player, and you got to pay attention to him. You got to try to keep him as perimeter as you can. Try to get stick on puck, but he's going to get his chances. He's just too good.
As the NHL regular season winds down and the playoffs loom ever closer, only time will tell which team will score big with Bedard. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Connor Bedard, he's got a free and clear breakaway. Straight in on Kruger, shoots and scores!
Lethbridge police need our help finding a 16-year-old girl. Police say Sunshine Spear Chief has been missing since March the 8th. She was supposed to meet with her guardian at the end of the school day, but did not show up. Her family is concerned about her well-being. Spear Chief is described as an Indigenous female, 185 centimeters tall and 55 kilograms. She was last seen wearing black pants, a gray hoodie, a long black winter coat, and black high-top shoes. If you've seen Spear Chief, you're asked to call Lethbridge Police right away at 403-328-4444. 311 celebrated their 4-year anniversary on Friday. The Customer Contact Center in Lethbridge has been running since 2019 and has answered over 100,000 cases since March of last year. It's evolved into so much, including the introduction of a couple of new functions like the live chat and new inquiry resolution process. The general manager of 311 says they answer a wide variety of calls and are starting to look ahead to their 5th year of service.
People call in for, what time is the bus coming? Or do you know what's happening here? Where is there a new dog park going up? Those types of things to help. I've got sewer backup. So we answer to everything. We'd like to expand on our chat uptake. We are looking at maybe doing a chat bot. And so that's in our distant future, but those are things that we're looking for. We're just, continually move through to technology.
Live agents are available over the phone Monday through Friday or in person at City Hall. A local business will be turning up the heat this weekend at a hot sauce expo taking place at Exhibition Park. The expo is called Heating Up the Prairies, and Beyond Hot will be hosting the event. This will be the first that a local business will be hosting an expo like this in Western Canada. Owner of Beyond Hot, Dylan Lowry, says he's excited to connect with people and have some fun during this weekend event.
I'm pumped, I'm ecstatic, I'm stressed. All of those emotions rolled up to one. I've been hyper for about the last 4 days. It's just a lot of fun putting it on, a lot of moving parts, but hopefully it's a success. And I just want everybody to come out and have a good time. We're supporting 2 charities at the same time as well. So they're near and dear to our heart, and it's not about making money, it's about having fun.
Heating Up the Prairies takes place on Saturday from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. A recent report from Equifax says credit card debt is up 15%, and young Canadians are feeling the brunt of it. Officials with the Students Association at Lethbridge College and the Students' Union at the University of Lethbridge say it's not surprising to hear that debt is going up. They say they've been hearing a lot from students who are struggling with credit card debt.
Our economy has skyrocketed, but students have no way of paying for it, especially if they're full-time in classes. And so they're having to work twice as hard just to be able to accommodate, to provide their shelter, to pay for tuition. Everything has gone up, including tuition, and it's going up again another 5.5%.
When the end of the month rolls around, students are left with an accumulation of their expenses. And if they're not able to meet that, or if they are able to meet that, that's great. But there's a vast demographic of students who do not have the funds available to pay that off. So the impact of defaulting on that credit card payment isn't just a steep interest rate of 21%, just as an example in my personal case, but it's rather a hit on your income, which can take significant efforts to grow and move as you transition into the next stage of your life post-graduation as well.
Officials at both of our post-secondaries say help is readily available to students who are having a difficult time affording food. They say students do have access to gift cards and hampers at the schools. NDP Alberta finance critic and Lethbridge West MLA Shannon Phillips says Premier Daniel Smith's auto insurance rate freeze is a fake. Phillips says on March 1st, Aviva Insurance was approved for a 16% rate increase, while Traders Insurance was approved for a 13% increase. Phillips says that is substantial.
Those are pretty big increases that were approved after the freeze supposedly took effect. It is worth noting that Aviva is one of the largest insurance providers here in the province, so this will affect thousands of Albertans. It is not clear why these increases were approved at a time when rates were supposedly frozen. Daniel Smith and the UCP have a lot of questions to answer. All we can conclude from this fake freeze is that Daniel Smith's auto insurance promises are fake, just as many of her affordability measures in her budget are fake.
The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is calling for a referendum in Alberta in connection with the potential Calgary-Edmonton Commonwealth Games 2030 bid. Now, to talk about this in more detail is the Alberta director of the CTF, Chris Sims, who joins us here in Lethbridge. Chris, how much could the Commonwealth Games potentially cost Albertans?
Oh, goodness. Well, apparently, according to reports from the Hamilton Spectator, that city in Ontario passed on hosting the Commonwealth Games because apparently it was going to cost around $500 million. Whew. So $500 million is a lot of money. That's definitely enough to spook a lot of taxpayers. And we have a lot of questions. So far, we're seeing a $4 million promise of just exploring it. $2 million from the province, $1 million from Edmonton, and $1 million from Calgary taxpayers. So that's what we're saying. Hey, folks, tap the brakes. Let's have a vote.
You know, I remember in 2018 when Calgary voted no to hosting another Winter Games. Why would the Stampede City consider the Commonwealth Games, which would feature athletes from 72 countries? But you know what? With that many coaches, athletes, and fans making their way to Alberta, wouldn't the money spent on the Games be recouped?
Yeah, great question. So there's always this argument that Commonwealth Games or a Games event will put places on the map. And sure, fair enough. It's all fun and games, though, until the bill comes in. And right now, I don't know about you folks there at the newsroom, we're getting all these phone calls from people who can barely afford groceries. People are really struggling with the cost of living, primarily due to inflation and the carbon tax. And so folks just don't have money to spare. And this is where we're saying, hey, maybe you should ask people first before signing on to really expensive games that only a certain amount of people pay attention to.
So have you heard from either Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gondek or Edmonton Mayor Amarjeet Sohi if they're considering putting forth a referendum?
So Jyoti Gondek, the mayor of Calgary, has mused aloud that she doesn't think maybe whether or not there needs to be a vote. Our answer is there definitely needs to be a vote. The last time around, like you pointed out, they folks said no to the Olympics, even though all the fancy people and the politicians really wanted taxpayers to pay for it. They thought this was an obvious slam dunk, but the no side won. And so if folks are going to be spending taxpayers' money, the least they can do is ask us first.
Thanks, Chris. That was Chris Sims, Alberta Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, joining us from Lethbridge. Well, we saw more snow in Lethbridge and many parts of southwestern Alberta again today, but how long will the flurries continue? A full look at the weather picture is coming up. So this is the weekend that we spring forward 1 hour, and the Lethbridge Fire Department is reminding us to check the batteries and our smoke detectors at the same time we reset the clocks. Jeanette Roche is in now with all of the weather details. Jeanette, you know, the nice thing about moving the clocks ahead 1 hour is that we're adding 1 more hour of natural daylight to our afternoon schedule.
Oh, that's for sure. You gotta love that, Hal. The only thing is it kind of messes with your sleep cycle a little bit initially. But beyond that, as for this weekend, we are looking at a little bit of a snowy one. Starting this evening, actually starting today, we saw 10 centimeters with that snowfall warning, another 2 to 4 overnight into Saturday. We're looking at 30% chance of flurries. -7 is the high. -2 for Sunday. Lots of sunshine. After that, it should be much better. Look at that. Double digits on Monday, up to 10 degrees, 12 degrees on Tuesday. That's almost the teens. I'm taking that as a win. 5 degrees the high on Wednesday, and ending out that 7-day forecast with a high of 7 degrees on Thursday. So I'm loving it. It's a strange little trend that we're seeing, but average high for this time of year, 5 degrees, average low -8. 17 was our high on this day back in 1981. And the coldest was -36. That was back in 1951. 6:56, that's when the sun rose this morning. We're now in that 6 o'clock hour. Sunset this evening at 6:27. Look at that. We're looking at over 11 and a half hours of daylight, almost at that 12-hour mark. Okay, and Victoria tomorrow, we're looking at a 70% chance of showers in the morning, 30% chance in the afternoon, high of 9 degrees there. 7 the high in Vancouver, looking at periods of rain ending in the afternoon. Could see some wet snow in the higher terrain as well. Edmonton looking at a high of -7 tomorrow, and -9 the expected high in Calgary. Both of those cities looking at periods of light rain and then, or light snow rather, and then 30% more chance of flurries in the afternoon. Saskatoon also looking at some flurries. They're looking at 2 to 4 centimeters. -8 the high there, -8 the high tomorrow in Regina. Regina under a blizzard warning this evening, could see 10 to 20 centimeters falling along with 70K winds. By tomorrow, looking at another 5 to 10 centimeters. Also some 60K winds, -6 the high in Winnipeg. Now there's a low pressure system tracking near the U.S. border. That's going to dump some heavy snowfall in Winnipeg this evening as well. All of southern Manitoba looking at another 5 to 10 centimeters in Winnipeg tomorrow and some 60K winds. So yeah, beware of that. Mainly cloudy skies tomorrow in Toronto, 0 the high, overcast in Ottawa, -1 the high there, and 1 degree the high in Montreal, with mainly overcast skies for tomorrow. As we look to the Maritimes over on the east coast here, looking up to Fredericton first, we're seeing a high of 4 degrees. Beautiful sunshine though, quite a bit different story than the prairies. Sunny skies also tomorrow in Halifax, 6 degrees the high there, 1 the high in Charlottetown, and 0 the high in St. John's. St. John's could see quite a bit of snow tomorrow as well, up to 5 to 10 centimeters there as well. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
Today's weather report is brought to you by Ridge Utilities, providing competitive rates for electricity, natural gas, and internet, while investing back in communities across southern Alberta.
Stats Canada added 22,000 more jobs last month, is raising concerns that a strong labour market could motivate the Bank of Canada to start hiking interest rates again after holding steady this month. Job creation was more modest than the strong gains seen in the previous 2 months, but economists say it's still far too high. They say it's a concern because it means higher wages, which can fuel higher inflation that could derail the central bank's efforts to bring down the rising cost of living. The unemployment rate jumped slightly this month for our region. Trevor Lewington with Economic Development Lethbridge says the unemployment rate rose from 4.1 to 4.2% this month, which is not a big change, and variation is expected from month to month.
That increase was actually driven by a few less people working in the economy, but also a slight pullback in people looking for work. So both of those numbers increased that number. But we still have the lowest unemployment rate in all of Western Canada, so only Saskatoon is at the same level. And in our city specifically, we saw the manufacturing sector gain about 1,100 jobs, so very strong growth in manufacturing. Where we saw some decline was actually in retail and hospitality, where we saw about 700 jobs lost.
Lewington adds that 0.1% of a change is not that big of a deal, really. Ottawa gave the thumbs up for WestJet Airlines and the takeover of Sunwing Airlines and Sunwing Vacations. Officials say the two brands will be marketed separately. Financial terms of the takeover were not disclosed. Transport Minister Omar Alghabra released a statement which said in part, "We've made the decision that will allow Sunwing to continue to provide affordable vacation packages to Canadians, create more good jobs, and protect current jobs, as well as Canadians who have already purchased tickets." Last fall, the Competition Bureau warned that WestJet purchase of Sunwing could result in higher prices and decreased services, particularly around package deals. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 311 points on the day to finish at 19,774. The Dow was down 567 points to 32,230. The S&P 500 was down 56 on the day to 3861, and the Nasdaq was down 199 points to 11,138. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 96 cents to 76.68 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 11 cents to 243 US. Gold was up 37.23 on the day to 1868.26 US an ounce, and silver was up 47 cents to $20.54 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $11.70 per bushel, barley's at $9.07, canola's at $17.39, and corn is at $10.77 per bushel. Live cattle April contract was down 53 cents to $164.28. Feeder cattle March contract was down $1.60 to $191.48, and lean hogs April contract was up $2.38 to $87.45. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 72.30 US. Recapping one of our top stories, Canada's Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino says the federal government is launching public consultations for establishing a Foreign Influence Transparency Agency. The registry will require those acting in Canada on behalf of a foreign government or state to disclose their ties. You know, there are students at the University of Lethbridge who created some powerful tools to help those who battle various disabilities. See what those amazing inventions are in just a moment with BCN's Jeanette Rocher. If you see news happening in your community, be sure to drop us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, makers are making changes at the University of Lethbridge. The Agility and Adaptive Tech program at our local university campus is a student-centered program with a focus on innovation and social, economic, and political impact, including the entrepreneurial spirit, which is always exciting. And we love to talk about it. And to talk more about the builds, tools, and minds involved in this creative zone, we're joined by two students from the U of L. We've got Lindsay Stevenow and Carly Hudson, who are both winners of the Adaptive Technology RBC Award. And then we also have Kevin Roloffs joining us, also from Lethbridge, and he is the coordinator of the program. So welcome all of you to Bridge City News. Great to have you on.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Okay, so firstly, for the students here, congratulations to you two for winning the award. Maybe tell us about it. And what did you do to get recognized exactly? How did you win this RBC award?
Sure. So for the RBC Agility Award, Kevin actually came to our classroom and did a little presentation and speech, which kind of sparked our interest in what the Innovation Zone is and what they do here. So we found out that they were hiring. So it was like any other job interview process. We sent in a resume and a cover letter, and then we got an interview, which was extremely exciting. And now we're here. So.
Okay, and you won a bit of money?
We did. We actually won $2,500.
Okay, well, money is always great, especially when you're a student. And you were mentioning you're a third-year student, so you're undergrad still. So I'm sure that money will come in handy. Do you just kind of put it back into your studies?
You can really do anything you want with it once you get it. So
that's okay. I love that. Okay, so Carly, what's your field of study exactly, and how does the Adaptive Tech program help you as you advance through your years at the university?
Sure, great question. So I am in therapeutic recreation, and we work with a variety of different individuals that have different disabilities, conditions, illnesses. So this adaptive tech program really helped me in figuring out ways that I can make life a little bit easier for these individuals. So building switches for individuals who have lower dexterity in their fingers. And so yeah, it really, really helped me. And it actually really helped me also write papers. So giving me a little bit more of a knowledge base.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what else could you ask for as a student, right? Okay, and then Lindsay, how about for yourself? What are you working towards while you're at the U of L?
So I'm also in the therapeutic recreation degree program. And like Carly had said, we work with people with disabilities. And basically we use recreation as a form of therapy for them. So we're constantly working with different recreation activities, trying to find a way to have them participate in it and adapt it if needed. So this program has been very helpful in that sense of seeing how things can be adapted to help individuals with the disabilities.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Are you working on any kind of a specific project right now?
I am actually. They have a newer type of student project program with our schooling. And it's doing an adaptive tech assignment where we have to decide and create something to help a person with a disability. So currently right now, I am working on trying to adapt a handle for a kayak paddle for an individual with cerebral palsy who maybe doesn't have the grip strength to hold on to the kayak paddle. So it's just a way to have their hand either rest into this little handle so they can move their arms with it, or have it so that it just helps secure their hand to the kayak paddle a bit more. And then there's a couple other students who are also doing this project as well, and they're coming up with their own different types of ideas. And one of them was for an individual who has trouble opening their hands. So their hands are kind of gripped like this, and it's really hard to get their hands into gloves. And they're a farmer, and so of course, working outside, they constantly have to wear gloves and protect their hands that way. So she is trying to work on a way to adapt that, and either thinking of putting a zipper down the middle, or on that you can open up the glove more to stick your hand in, so that he doesn't have to try and extend his fingers as much. And then there's a couple of other.
Yeah, and of course, like being in southern Alberta, I mean, we're right in the ag sector here, so that's just perfect. And then I love your idea for the paddle, because being a kayaker myself, I can just imagine, and it's something we don't think about, that there are people that can't take part in these activities, and a program like this and students like you are really going to help them out. Absolutely. And I understand also that there are partnerships with Alberta Health Services for this. Can you tell us about some of these partnerships?
Yeah. So we had Alberta Health Services come on into the innovation zone. That's where I'm at right now. Okay. And it is a makerspace that we have students come into to play around and learn how to build, how to ideate new technologies, how to maybe even plan an entrepreneurial effort they want to get going. So we work with Alberta Health Services to implement our tools to make low-tech assistive devices to increase daily quality of life. So basically, I was telling you about that seatbelt depressor tool.
Yeah, maybe talk about that a little bit so that our viewers understand it.
Yeah, all right. So I drive a Subaru, and so I can open my seatbelt no problem. And sometimes it's just, I'm wearing a jacket and I might need a little bit extra length to depress my seatbelt. So this thing is just a little handle like this, where you handle it with one hand and it depresses your seatbelt. So you get out a little bit easier. I wish I had it, but they all were taken from us and used. And yeah, and then Lindsay's working on that kayak paddle holder. And we are also working with Adaptable Outdoors. They're a nonprofit charitable organization that gets people with mental or physical disabilities out into the wilderness. So we can then take her paddle adapter and give it to someone that actually is using it on the water that day, and then re-innovate it to make it better for someone else. So yeah, we have more than one group we're working with that helps people with disabilities. And if you're a paddler yourself, you can come check out and volunteer and actually see us in action.
Oh, I would love to do that. And I mean, I can just hear how much this will benefit members of the community, 100%.
And one thing I know about having a disability is people are more than willing to help. But if you have a way to get out into nature and then have volunteers help you, it grows a group, it grows a community, and it makes you feel better inside. It turned my life around and actually changed the direction of my life.
Oh, that's incredible. And then for you students, how has this adaptive tech program or the pillars of agility, how has it impacted your education?
So education-wise, this has actually impacted me very well. I'm losing my words, but so this program has, like I mentioned before, has really helped me in my studies and really helped me in my field of practice. I have now more to talk about with my clients and my teachers, and I'm very happy that I can actually share this knowledge within my field of practice because it's all very new. So I'm kind of, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, would you say that your time with the adaptive tech program has taught you more of how to think and how to create something?
Of course. They really, really encourage creativity here. Yeah. So
it sounds like it.
Yeah, we have 3D printers. We're constantly printing new and innovative objects, and it's crazy around here. We have sewing machines. You can build whatever you want here. So yes, it has definitely impacted my creativity.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you guys are basically inventors. So if I were to come down to your lab, what kind of, I mean, you mentioned sewing machines and 3D printers, but what kind of tools would I be seeing you working on?
Right now, you would see us be working mainly on soldering irons. The students, anyway, me and Lindsay, we are preparing for our next Makers Making Change event. So we're soldering things and 3D printing, and I think that's mainly what we're doing right now. So.
That's incredible. It sounds like Santa's workshop, only with, I guess, adaptive toys. It's pretty cool. Okay, so maybe tell us about the Makers Making Change and Makers Making Change build events.
Sure, yeah. So we have an upcoming Makers Making Change build event on the 23rd, and we are going to be building dice rollers with everybody. So I have one here. So these are the dice rollers. This is a 3D printed base, and then the dice are in here, and this is the button. And when you press that, the dice jumble around. And so that's what we're working on building for our next event. And all of our designs come from the Makers Making Change website. So we get students, it's open to the public from 6 till 8, and we get them this base comes in multiple different parts. So they build everything from stripping the wires to soldering to gluing things together, all to make this dice roller. So it's really exciting.
That's so cool. The first thing I think of when I look at that is, in Las Vegas they have the big ones that jumble the dice around, and I guess it's for like craps or something. So that's the first thing I think of. So, I mean, this could help somebody. I mean, we're talking about kayaking, we're talking about getting out to nature, but some people like to go to the casino and do some gambling, right?
Exactly. It's really for anything you want it to be for. It's for board games, card games, anything.
No, I love that.
We also have made a card holder that you can put your cards in, and you can pick them out if you can't hold a bunch of cards in your head. So we can get you playing gambling games for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. What can you tell us about the Launch Point Pitch competition that's coming up at the end of April, or is that what this was?
That is something from Trailblazing. So that's an entrepreneurial program that runs through Randy Old at the university here. And it's also with Tech Connect now, maybe, on Community Futures. So you come in there, you learn how to build a pitch deck for whatever entrepreneurial business you're starting. And then that's basically an elevator pitch. So you can get investors to help fund your project going forward.
Oh, I can totally see something like this taking off. I can see one of you going on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den or something. You're so creative. What drew you to this program, and what kind of a career are you looking at having afterwards?
I think for me, it was just seeing all the different things that happen down here. It just seemed so cool and unique, and just seeing how you can adapt things and use them for our future clients that we're going to work with. And honestly, I could see myself taking some of these adaptations and using them in my future career as a recreation therapist. So that's one of the things that kind of really drew me to it, because we do work with so much adaptive equipment.
Yeah, okay, so that's kind of your focus on where you want to go. Did you ever realize that you were so creative when you got into this, or has this kind of helped you along with that?
No, I definitely did not think I was going to be this creative and wouldn't be able to do all this stuff. But being here, they really encourage creativity. No idea is a bad idea. You just throw it out there, you test it out. If it doesn't work, you try something else. And so I've really learned a lot being down here and working in this facility.
Yeah, I'm amazed. It almost sounds like you're engineering students or something like that. I would never have thought. But are you, as students, you're able to build and design your own student projects too?
Yeah, we're allowed to work on anything we want as long as we get the proper training that they provide here. So.
Okay. If viewers or future students want to know more at how they can get involved or find more information, how can they do that?
So they can either come down to the Innovation Zone in the Science Building, or they can also check out the Agility Instagram, which I believe is just ULETH Agility, and they can find some more information there, or possibly on the website as well. You just Google the Innovation Zone or Agility on Google, you can find the website from there.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing stuff. I can't wait to see all of these toys, so to speak. I call them toys, but they're really, I don't know. You must have another name for them.
Toys.
You do call your
Yeah,
tools.
yeah.
Tools. Okay. I mean, I can't wait to see these things in action.
Enjoyment implements.
Oh, there you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do the students, what will they take away from participating in that Makers Making Change project or program?
Well, they can just learn a new skill, networking, and an intrinsic value that's through the roof, knowing that you just help someone down the road enjoying a family game night or something like that. Or paddling, yeah.
Have members of the community actually been able to come in and try these out, these prototypes?
Yes, we haven't seen them come in and try them. They have taken them away and used them at home.
Okay. And what kind of feedback are you getting from the community on this, and from the folks that are actually using the equipment?
Just smiles and a new lease on life in some sense. Yeah, a new level that they can now play with.
I love that. That's such a great note to end on as well. We are out of time, but it's been such a pleasure having the three of you on today. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Kevin Roloffs is a coordinator of the Adaptive Technology Program. Lindsay Steveno and Carly Hudson are both students in the program, and we just can't wait to see what they do in their futures. Well, Canada seems to be traveling in a more socialistic, political, and woke direction over the last number of years. And although some celebrate it, others might argue it's a direction that strips citizens of the right to speak freely and voice unpopular opinions freely. Today's guest is Derek Sloan, a former Conservative MP, a current leader of the Ontario Party, and author of the book Glorious and Free. Welcome to Bridge City News, Derek. Great to have you on today.
Really glad to be here.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so can you first of all give us a little snapshot of what your book is about?
Sure. So my book, which I have a copy of right here, is it's half an autobiography, and it tells the story of my life and my time in politics. The other half is my take on the issues. So I want people to know where I stand on all the issues facing Canada. I believe the book has a blueprint in it for how to make Canada glorious and free again. And I want it to be clear where I think the political direction of Canada should go from here.
Okay, so you mentioned your book is part autobiographical. So can you maybe describe yourself to our viewers? Who is Derek Sloan?
Sure. Well, you know what? I'm the kind of person that believes that we can always be better as a country, as people, as families. And I got into politics unwittingly. I didn't grow up wanting to be a politician. I was just so frustrated with what I was seeing in the government, with our freedoms being stripped away. So I'm a freedom fighter. I'm an advocate for Canadians who don't have a voice. And more than that, I'm a Christian. And I believe that God has called me into politics. And I'm here to hopefully serve faithfully in that capacity.
Okay, well, you have some serious concerns about Canadian citizens losing their freedoms. So that would include, I guess, freedom of speech, freedom to express unpopular viewpoints, freedom not to get vaccinated. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
Well, there's some major freedom issues here in Canada. And, without going specifically into any one of them, I think the current of politics has changed. We used to have a very strong current of dissent in Canada, where people could have different views, and that was okay. In fact, even a lot of non-mainstream views were able to go to the court system and use the courts to get, acknowledgement from the government. But things have changed. The courts are no longer working in favor of fundamental freedoms, in my view. And the price of dissent is very high. Not following the government's views or the government talking points on so many issues can get you in real trouble. To give you an example of this, right now the RCMP, instead of investigating Beijing interference in Canadian politics, they're actually criminally investigating who made the leaks to the press about that issue. So it shows that our focus is on stamping out dissent as opposed to dealing with real problems here in Canada.
Okay, interesting. It's interesting you mentioned that, and I want to get into the China thing a little bit later on. But first of all, in your opinion, what do Canadians have to do to reverse that trend of having their freedoms reduced if they feel that they are?
Well, listen, I think that Canadians overall and maybe not the ones on your show. Maybe they're already, educating themselves and getting involved. But all of us have to get involved. We have to do our own research. We have to reach out to our politicians. And if they're not doing the right thing for the country, we have to support politicians that are. So, it's not just a political solution. It's really about Canadians waking up and taking their country back. And it could be praying for Canada. It could be sharing information with your friends. But we, frankly, need better leaders in this country. And until we demand that, it's not going to happen.
Okay, well, so speaking of leaders then, Derek, do you think a Conservative federal government under Pierre Poilievre would restore freedoms to Canadians? So what are your thoughts on the new CPC leader?
I've always said the two major parties in Canada are following the same path. They're going in the same direction. Just one party is going faster than the other. So in my view, we need to not only slow the train down, we need to stop it and move it in another direction altogether. So that's something that I don't believe any major party in Canada right now is able to do or willing to do. And, frankly, specifically speaking about Conservatives, we haven't seen a lot from them. We saw some strong statements during the leadership campaign, but we haven't seen much since then. The Emergency Act inquiry has come out. We haven't seen any, comments from the leadership of the Conservatives saying, that they disagree with the results of that. We've seen them apologizing to the media and throwing their members of parliament under the bus lately as well, which is, things that have been going on for years, that sort of tactic of, buying into, the liberal narrative in the press and apologizing for it. That's not the kind of thing that a party should be doing. They need to stand on their values. If they make a legitimate mistake, by all means apologize, but they can't be apologizing for things that they haven't done wrong.
It's interesting that you say that. There's been a lot of that going on here in Alberta for sure. And Derek, considering how you got ejected from the Federal Conservative Party, what are your thoughts on the future of these social conservatives in this party? You yourself consider yourself a social conservative?
Well, listen, I'm proud of any social conservative that is doing their part to change society, whether it's in a political party or elsewhere. I personally believe that to make a difference in Canada politically, we need a new political movement. I don't think any of the mainstream, conservative, liberal, NDP parties are going to take us where we need to go here in Canada. Obviously, some of those parties are better than others, but we need a new movement that's built from the grassroots up. And I'm hoping that will materialize. I think it is materializing right now, but I hope it materializes in the sense of actually having influence in government and making changes that's needed.
Okay. Obviously, a huge news item that everyone's heard about was the inquiry into the Emergencies Act. So, Derek, what do you think of the outcome of that inquiry?
Well, listen, I disagree with the outcome of that. I was a part of the Freedom Convoy. I was there for parts of it. I wasn't there when the police brutalized everybody, but I saw with my own eyes what was going on. It was not in any way violent at all. I don't think the government had any reason to use the Emergencies Act. They in many ways instigated this situation by having draconian measures federally for the truckers, and then also basically thumbing their nose at the participants. The people there were willing to meet with the government. They were willing to talk. And of course, the government refused to speak to them and called them terrorists. So I disagree with the results of this Emergency Act inquiry. I think the government should be held to account. And I think they will be over the course of time. There's court cases that are unfolding right now in relation to the Emergencies Act and also COVID management. And I think that eventually we're going to see some wins on those cases. And we're going to we're going to see that the way the government acted was wrong. It just may take a few years to come out in the wash.
Okay, so would your advice be to just keep fighting the fight? So what does this mean for anyone who maybe wants to protest a vaccine mandate or what they might consider any kind of government overreach?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think we need to keep the pressure on. I think joining or supporting groups that promote freedom, that politicians that promote freedom, these things are all good. There's no question that a lot of trust has been broken with the with Canadians as a whole, and the police and the government, with what we saw in Ottawa. But we have to keep fighting, and we have to keep pressure on the government to change and to be transparent.
Okay. Now, Derek, you mentioned China's intrusion earlier. So the Chinese intrusion into Canadian politics and economics have been a huge news item lately, and of course, the Prime Minister's response to that. So what are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, China has been interfering in our nation and other nations for many years, and it's time for a coordinated strategy amongst all freedom-loving nations in the world to act against their dominance and their intrusion. The Liberals are not the party to do it. They benefit from Beijing's influence here in Canada, and they will do nothing more than the most tepid response required to sort of put the story behind them. So I wouldn't trust the Liberals at all to be able to deal with this issue. The issue of China has been on the radar for years, and they have done practically nothing to enable us to deal with that, at all. Really, they've made the problem worse over the last couple of years.
Interesting. Okay, so do you have any insights as to when the next federal election might take place? Do you think Trudeau will stay on and run again, or will someone replace him?
So I've been in politics for a while, and I can tell you that there's always a rumor that there's an election just around the corner. Having said that, it doesn't mean that there isn't an election just around the corner. So I don't have any, special information, but I can say this: I believe that Justin Trudeau's strategy is to hold on to power as long as he can. I don't think he wants an election right now. I don't think the NDP want an election right now. The polls would suggest that they would do worse during an election now than they would have potentially before. So having said that, though, if politics can change on a dime, and if more information comes out, the NDP might be forced to stop supporting the Liberal government. So there could be an election at any time, but I believe Trudeau's aim is to hold out as long as he can and run again during the next election. Will that be possible? That's his aim. If his party gets upset enough, maybe they'll try and turf him. But again, who knows how that's going to play out.
Okay. Many conservatives do believe that the government climate change policy is not good news for the economy. So where do you see this going, and what do you think needs to change?
Well, the climate alarmism that has been adopted by our federal government and other leaders in this country is basically an absolute scam. And I say that with very little qualification. And the fact is that the idea that Canada can somehow halt global warming by putting extreme economic strictures on our country is absolutely false. The way that they're going about it is by promoting green energy, which is often subsidized and wasteful. I'm fine for new technology, but let's let the market sort that out. I believe, if I could buy something that would make me not have to pay electrical bills every month, or could get me off the grid, or whatever, that would be cost effective for me, I would do it in a heartbeat. So when these technologies improve, people will buy them. I don't think that anything we do as a country, we could stop doing everything tomorrow, driving our cars, heating our homes, building things, go back to the Stone Age, basically, in terms of poverty and subsistence living, and we would have zero influence on the global climate. I don't believe that. I frankly don't believe the climate can be controlled. I think that there's long-term trends that come and go. There may be some impact that humans have, but this focus that humans are the only thing that impacts climate, and that we can somehow halt or reverse these trends, is suicidal. And I think that we need to stand strong against that and stop getting into agreements like the pact to have net zero carbon emissions by 2050. I think that is entirely unrealistic and frankly damaging to our country, when countries like China don't care really at all. They're happy to sell us the minerals and the rare earth metals and so on to make all these solar panels, but their pollution is increasing year over year, far greater than ours in total even exists in Canada. So I think it's a major issue, and frankly, no major political leader is speaking up on it in the mainstream press.
Good point there. Okay, Derek, you are the leader of the Ontario Party. Considering that media outlets will generally label you as far right, do you think that you'll be able to make any progress in Ontario?
Well, we did have an election just this past June, and we were able to get enough votes to be considered. We were above a threshold where we actually get certain benefits from the government. So we were able to get about 85 to 90,000 votes in the last election. And we're going to grow from there. That was our first kick at the can in terms of running as many candidates as possible. And we're going to grow from there. There is a hunger for leadership, true leadership in Canada. And I believe that people who fill the void can do that. The media is labeling lots of people in different ways. It's not true. We are not a far right party. We're a common sense party that believes things that most Canadians took for granted not even 5 or 6 years ago. So to somehow say that we're, far right or something like that, it's disingenuous. It shows how far things have shifted, in large part without the awareness of the average Canadian even seeing that these things are happening. But the dialogue has changed, and our current governments and leaders are promoting ideas that are very radical. So the radicals, if there are radicals anywhere, they're the people running our country and our government right now. I represent a movement that is about common sense, patriotic Canadians who want to take their country back. And there's a lot of us across the country, and we're going to do that. Whether it takes us 1 time or 10 times, we're going to do it.
Thanks so much for being with us today, Derek. We are out of time, but it was great to have you on.
Really glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Derek Sloan is the leader of the Ontario Party and author of Glorious and Free. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.